Good afternoon and welcome to Managing Expenses in Tight Months, and thank you for joining us. My name is Romel George, and I'm the Housing Counselor with Habitat for Humanity East Bay Silicon Valley, and I will be your presenter today. On the line with us is my colleague Alessandra. She will also be participating and she will upload some documents in a few moments into the presentation. Our presentation will be about 30 to 40 minutes today, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end of that 30 to 40 minute session. The bottom of your screen, you have a chat box feature. If you can click on chat, a box will open where you can type in your questions. You can use this feature throughout the presentation, and at the end, I will read and answer all of your questions during the Q&A. During the presentation, we will have 3 poll questions. The answers you give are anonymous, and we will greatly appreciate the time you take to participate. All righty, going to jump right in here. Our programs. Habitat serves people in Alameda, Contra Costa, and Santa Clara counties through 3 programs. Our first program is our Affordable Homeownership Program. In this program, we build new homes and renovate existing homes and then sell them at affordable mortgages to qualified families with limited and moderate incomes. Our second program is our Housing Counseling Program. Through our Housing Counseling Program, we offer housing counseling services. The Housing Counseling Program is certified by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Through one-on-one counseling, we provide help to people who want to learn strategies for budgeting income and expenses, savings, managing debt, credit repair, credit rebuilding, and improving the credit score. For people whose goal is to become homeowners, we can help them to reach that goal as well. And we also offer the financial education workshop and the 8-hour first-time homebuyer class. Our third program is our home preservation or home repair program. And through our home preservation program, we actually provide grants and low interest rate loans for low income home buyer or homeowners, I should say, throughout our service area. So if you know someone who is already a homeowner and is low to moderate income and their home needs some repairs, have them reach out to Habitat. Apply for that program, and it is very possible that we can help them with a low or no interest rate loan, repair that property. Now, before we really jump into everything here, we have a quick little poll here. And we want to know, number one, where you are joining us from today. Let me just launch this poll. And if we can have everyone chime in, that would be absolutely great. We truly appreciate your participation. All righty, looks like we have all the results in, and looks like everyone today is calling from Santa Clara County. Great. All righty, what we're going to cover today, we will talk about how to assess your financial situation, how to create a spending plan, how to manage expenses in tight months, dealing with debt collectors, and then some COVID-19 assistance programs. I'm going to start with budget busters. There are some common budget busters that impact the ability to stay on top of your bills and expenses. First one being emergencies. We do not have control over emergencies, but they happen. And when they happen, we need to be prepared. Some examples of that are medical bills or car repair, loss of income. Really the only way to prepare for budget busters like this or emergencies is to have an emergency fund in place. At minimum, you should have the equivalent of 3 months worth of net income saved. If a 3-month goal seems impossible, don't give up. Start with a smaller goal, but make savings a priority. Fees are costs which we are charged if we overdraft our bank account. We pay bills late like rent, credit cards, loan amounts, or loan payments, I should say. In addition, we may be charged interest, which means the monthly payments will increase and become even less affordable for us. There are periodic expenses. These are expenses that are due every quarter, every 6 months, every year. If you do not plan, you risk having or not having enough money to be able to cover or pay these bills on time. Then fast food. Fast food seems like a cheap way to eat, but the $10 you spend, if you were to spend it on groceries, you could feed yourself for more than one meal. And then cash. Cash for typically smaller purchases, i.e. bottled water, coffee, small things that we don't really pay attention to. We think that they're small and they don't add up, but they truly do add up. And if you add them up over time, they could definitely be a budget buster. And then lastly, we have money handouts. It's often hard saying no to a family member or friend in need. We feel that if we say no to an ask for help, it means that we're being selfish. But if you depend on that money to cover your own expenses, you need to carefully consider whether helping them winds up hurting you. Alrighty, some other budgeting tips. Number one, you want to track your expenses by category. Throughout the month, write them down for a cost for each. If you do not, you will play a guessing game on what you spent and never be in control of where your money is going. Best way to track expenses is to use receipts because they itemize the things that you buy. An example of that is you go to the supermarket and buy food, but you also buy medicines and get cash back. If you track using the total that you spent, you will not have an accurate picture of where your money went. But if you break the receipt down into separate categories, you'll know exactly how much you spent on each category. Auto pay. Set up auto payments. An example of that is rent, car payments, credit card payments. This will help you avoid missing a payment or paying late and getting charged late fees. And we also want to make sure that you're saving enough every month to cover the future periodic expenses. Example, car insurance or back to school costs, holiday season shopping, and gift giving. And then lastly, you want to check statements to make sure that your expenses reconcile with your records. Financial institutions can make mistakes. Example of that is, did you get a chargeback for a refunded item? Checking statements will also help to alert you if there's any fraudulent activity going on in your accounts. Now we want to define your priorities to help you make sound spending choices. It's important to have a clear idea of what your financial priorities are. This will help you to identify expenses that you must prioritize and ones that you should reduce or perhaps eliminate altogether. Expenses can be defined as needs and wants. Needs are must expenses that you need in order to stay housed, live, and protect your income. Examples are your rent, your mortgage payment, utilities, and food. They keep you housed and help you to live. Protecting income include things like transportation costs to work and childcare. And then legal obligations would be like child support, alimony, student loans. These can have serious legal consequences, but could also have an impact on your income. We will talk about them a little bit later in the presentation. Now, wants. Wants are things that you would like to have, things that you do not need to live. They add quality to your life, but you can survive without them. Examples of that are going out to eat, going to the movies, going out with friends, having a cell phone plan with unnecessary features. They also differ. Your needs may be a want for someone else. All right, an example of your needs being, or how we can define those needs. John can get to work by public transportation. He does not need to take on the cost of owning a car. Maria evaluated all possible transportation methods and needs a car to get back and forth to work. But within that need, there are also some wants. Other than making sure that the car is reliable, she does not need the newest, most expensive model. Wants are neither good or bad, but to be able to successfully stay on top of your finances, you need to balance your wants and your needs. I'm going to talk about assessing your overall your financial situation. Before you can make a plan on how you will cover your expenses, you need to have a clear picture of how much in net income per month you can count on. That's the amount that you actually bring home, and what your expenses and debt obligations are. First, calculate the net monthly income you receive from all reliable sources, jobs, monthly benefits, stipends. Then list all of your expenses by category and their monthly cost, including your fixed expenses first, which are mortgage or rent, medical insurance premiums, fixed debt payments like car loans or personal loans. These are all easier to track but harder to adjust. Then you have your variable expenses. These are utilities, food. They are harder to track, but easier to adjust. As we know, to adjust your utilities, you just don't turn on the heater as much. So things, they are variable. They are not the same amount every month. Next, we have discretionary. These are your want expenses. Examples of that are going out to eat, charitable giving, personal expenses like manicures, all are discretionary spending. And then your debts. We're going to list all of your credit card accounts, loans, and how much you have to pay on them on a monthly basis or each month. When we talk about credit cards, we want to use the minimum payment amount that is required for your monthly payment on the credit cards. On periodic payments, auto, home insurance, property taxes, holiday back to school spending, calculate the periodic cost and how much you need to save per month to make sure that you can cover it when it becomes due. So you want to look at those on a long-term basis and make sure that you have the amount saved to be able to cover them when they become due. All right, you want to gain control and create a spending plan. Once you have an overall picture of your financial situation, the next step is to create your monthly spending plan. The first thing you want to do is start a bill payment calendar. Write down when your bills are due and how much you have to pay on them. Figure out which bills are due and to pay and which paycheck you will pay them with. This process will help you to plan to make sure that you have enough money to pay your bills when they are due, and also to avoid paying bills late and being charged late fees. Then before the month ends, create the next month's spending plan. Write it down so you can keep referring to it. Most importantly, make savings a priority. First, include the amount that goes into savings on a monthly basis, just as if you were paying a bill, and then you allocate an amount that becomes part of your month's spending plan. So before you start to pay bills, you figure out an amount that you want to save for yourself and put that away first. And then anything left, you allocate to debt payments or adding more to savings. Another great way or great tool to gain control is to track your expenses. During the month, make sure that you're staying on track with your spending plan. You may need to do this daily, weekly, depending on your current situation. Tracking them will help you know exactly where you spent your money and give you time to readjust. An example, groceries. You've allocated $250 for the month for groceries. It is week 2 of the month and you are at $200 and you still have 2 weeks to go. You will need to adjust or cut other expenses to make sure that you end the month budget positive. Obviously, there's no more going out to eat for the rest of the month, and you have to use all the allocated amount for groceries and cook at home. And sometimes we have to do that to ourselves just to make sure that we stay on track. And then we want to look for ways to reduce costs. What if you find that your expenses exceed your monthly income? What can you do? Look for and adopt cost-cutting strategies. Keep in mind your priorities, your wants and your needs. Identify all the expenses that fall lower on your list of priorities and that you can reduce or cut. Remember, something as simple as spending $4 less per day adds up to $121 per month or almost $1,500 per year. This is money that can help cover a high priority expense like rent, health insurance, or car insurance. We want to cut the non-essential expenses, memberships that you do not need or use, like gym memberships, streaming services, going out to eat, etc. We want to try and lower bills if we can possibly do that. That's another great way to cut. Eliminate home phone, get rid of cable, change to a lower cost data plan on your cell phone. Then a way to reduce wasteful spending when it comes to birthdays and holidays, make a card or bake a cake instead. To reduce essential expenses, look at your food costs and cut back by eating out less. Make a weekly meal plan based on the coupons and grocery deals that you find. You can also check with your providers to see if you qualify for low-cost programs for essential services like utilities, cell phone, or prescription drugs. There are free services, and you can reach out to organizations that offer services that can help you cover costs like the food pantry or clothes closet. There's also free tax preparation services. And then lastly, you can always borrow from a friend or neighbor a kitchen appliance that you do not use often, yard tools. You can do that instead of buying them, and then you can return the favor by lending them something as well. Identify available resources. By cutting costs may not be enough, so you may need to find a way to supplement the money that's coming in. Income is any money that you receive, even if it is not a steady monthly source. Income can be periodic, can be seasonal work, temporary jobs. It can be a one-time deal like gifts, a tax refund, or proceeds from having a yard sale or selling things that you don't need. Or it can be assistance of some sort in the form of benefits. Irregular income can help cover an expense like car repair, pay off debt, or build an emergency fund. If you need to bring in more money every month, find ways to supplement your income. Take a part-time job. A few hours a week can help cover an essential expenses like utilities. Offer services like yard work, teach a second language, tutor someone, house sit or pet sit for people who work or travel. If you are retired, get paid to give back, do community service. Some programs provide a stipend, like the example of that is the Senior Corps. Rent out a room if your rental contract allows it. Look for house sharing programs. Example of that in Santa Clara County is Catholic Charities. There's also Google house sharing programs in your city or county, but you have to look into that. Sell items that you no longer use, have a yard sale, send things to the consignment stores such as clothes, furniture, and household items, or you can obviously sell them on Craigslist. It's always to create a little more income for yourself. If you're paying for storage to keep stuff that you don't need, sell all that you can and you are left with stuff that you can keep at home and close to storage. Not only will you make money from the sales, but you will no longer have to pay the rent and free up money to cover bills. Ask for money as gifts, gift cards and cash for birthdays and holidays instead of getting more stuff. Use the money to cover expenses, pay a bill, or add to emergency savings. And then lastly, public assistance. Check to see if you qualify for cash aid or food stamps or Social Security benefits, unemployment and healthcare benefits. All of those can help you to cut your cost. Now we have another poll. We all ready for a poll here? Our second poll, Our second poll today, for whatever reason, okay, there it is. Okay, second poll today is up now, and it's about our need expenses. It is a multiple choice question. I want to have you take a look at that and answer those questions or answer that poll now. All right. Okay. All righty. Okay. Here are the results of that poll. Needed expenses or need expenses include shelter. We all got that correct. Transportation costs to work would be one of them as well. And then utilities is also one as well. So we have to be able to get back and forth to work. That is the way we keep our income. Obviously, we have to have a place to live, and we definitely have to have lights and water in that place that we have. So it would have been all three of those. Or A, B, and C, I should say. Okay, managing expenses in tight months. Some months can be particularly tough, especially when we're going through COVID-19. An emergency medical expense could come up, a reduction in income, job loss, just as I said, in COVID-19 kind of brings up a lot of those things. Ideally, you have an emergency savings that you can tap into to still be able to pay essential expenses and debt obligations. This is why adding two savings every month and building an emergency savings is so important. It will ensure that when the unpredictable happens, you are prepared. But if you do not have one, depending on your situation, you will need to either reduce or eliminate some expenses. First, list all of your bills and expenses by priority so you can identify which you must cover to protect housing and income. Then cut as many non-essential and variable expenses, even just a little bit. You'd be surprised at how much a few dollars saved here and there can add up. Of course, all bills are important, and ideally you want to keep on schedule with all of them. But if you if to get through the month you must choose which to pay, rotating bill payments can help you avoid losing your car or house or having a utility shut off. While this is not an ideal situation, it can be a short-term fix while you figure out a longer-term solution. But always weigh the risk and consequences of not paying a bill right now. If you must miss a payment, call the creditor right away and tell them. They may be willing to make repayment arrangement or change the due date so it lines up with your payday or benefit schedule. If you have been impacted by COVID-19, financial institutions offer additional relief, like allowing to reduce or delay payments, waiving fees and charges, and waiving penalties for early CD withdrawals. Seek help. Some organizations offer one-time rent or utility payment assistance, or you can contact a certified housing counselor. They offer specialized assistance that can help you build a plan that allows you to stay on top of your bills and expenses. Now, prioritizing bills and expenses. If you have to delay payment or skip bills, how did you decide which one you should cover and which can wait? Individual circumstances are unique, but typically give higher priority to expenses that help you stay housed, rent, mortgage, property taxes, homeowners association if you own a home. Keep your utilities connected. You're going to pay the water bill and the garbage bill, and yes. Ensure that income is protected. Transportation costs to work, which includes your car payment, gas, auto insurance. If you take public transportation, it would be public transportation cost. And then also the child care, because you have to make sure that the child or children are taken care of before you can go off to work. Maintain your medical and car insurance coverage. If you have medical emergency, you want to make sure that your costs are covered. Plus, it is required in California, and you will have to pay a penalty if you do not have medical insurance. And you cannot drive a car in California without auto insurance. Some jobs even require it. If you're a delivery service or driving of some sort, you will have to have a driver's license. All right, and to keep you out of financial or legal trouble, payments like child support, alimony, student loans, tax liens, and court-ordered Chapter 13 bankruptcy payments that might incur financial or legal penalties or even get your wages garnished. All righty, the lower priority are unsecured credit cards, medical bills. Although these are important, if you are forced to choose between paying rent or making a credit card payment, you need to prioritize your need for housing. Okay, so definitely pay the rent before you start to pay credit cards and other things. Even if you have collection accounts, unless you are being sued, don't forgo paying higher priority bills to pay a debt collector. But don't ignore these bills you can't pay for too long, because it can have credit, financial, and legal consequences. I should say it can have negative credit, financial, and legal consequences. And of course, the non-essential services like cable, Netflix, Hulu are lowest on the list. If a debt collector contacts you, don't ignore a debt that has gone into collection, but before you agree to pay them, you need to gather some information. You need to know the age of the debt. This determines the statute of limitation and the period during which you can be sued. This period can restart if you admit to owning or agree on a payment. So if you are not sure that you owe it, don't pay or admit to it until you have verified that it is yours. So you want to get more information. You can ask over the phone or mail a letter, but you want to get the collector's name, their address and phone number, the original creditor's name, address, and account number, the amount that you owe, when the account became delinquent with the original creditor, and then when the collector obtained the debt and the amount that it was when they actually obtained it. If you verify that you owe it, don't panic. You at least know what you're dealing with. You do have options, but before you agree to a repayment, confirm the total that you owe. Interest may have been added to the amount that the collector bought the debt for. Secondly, negotiate. Work out a repayment plan that fits your budget. And then make sure you have the funds to pay. And that's when it comes to negotiating. Don't negotiate something that you don't have the funds for. If you do not pay, you risk restarting the statute of limitation period. Also, the settlement offers can expire. And then also, lastly, keep in mind that a collection agency may not be willing to negotiate with you at all, and you may need to be ready to pay the amount in full. You want to ask for written confirmation on what you and the collection agency have agreed that you will pay. You will send the money only after you receive the confirmation letter. You do not want to pay with money orders or cashier's check. There's no proof that they have cashed it. If at all possible, pay with a check. Mail payment with delivery confirmation and request the collection agency sends you a receipt acknowledging the account has been cleared and you have a zero balance owed. And then keep records. Keep the paper trail, notes, and any phone conversations that you may have had. If the debt is not yours, mail a dispute letter right away. If you wait, you may lose the ability to dispute it. If you're sued by a debt collector, be sure to respond to court documents. If you don't, the court will usually assume that you agree with what the creditor says and issue a judgment against you. You may want an attorney present to advise you at this hearing. All right, and you want to know your rights. Debt collectors can engage in unfair practices. Or they cannot engage in unfair practices. They can't harass you, use abusive language, threaten you, lie to you, or discuss your debt with anyone but you, your spouse, or your attorney. You also want to watch out for scam debt collectors. A real debt collector will answer all of your questions, including their address, their contact number. Use this information to look them up to verify them online. A real debt collector will send you a written debt validation letter within 5 days of initially contacting you. A real debt collector will tell you the name of the original creditor that you owe the money to, and they will work with you to determine the best way to pay off your debt, even if it means making some payment arrangements over a period of time. If you suspect a scam, stop speaking to the caller. Contact the original creditor and ask who has the right to collect that debt. You can report any problems that you have with a debt collector to your state attorney general's office, the FTC or the Federal Trade Commission, as well as the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or the CFPB. Now, here's some COVID-19 financial relief things. These are benefits and assistance programs, both at the federal and state level for people impacted by the pandemic. Under the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program, individuals who have exhausted their unemployment benefits and whose job has been impacted by the pandemic may be eligible to continue receiving benefits for up to 39 weeks. Excuse me. People who are not eligible for regular unemployment insurance, for example, people who are self-employed, independent contractors, or freelancers, can receive benefits through the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, or PUA, through December 26, 2020. California was also just approved to receive federal money to provide $300 a week in extra benefits to people who lost work or have suffered reduced hours because of the pandemic and are receiving at least $100 in regular state unemployment benefits. This $300 supplemental payment will be available for weeks of unemployment dating back to August 1st. It is still unclear when the supplemental payments will begin or how long they will last, but will be available for a minimum of 3 weeks. Financial relief and protections are available through cities and state assistance programs. Check your city and county to see what type of programs they offer and if you will qualify. How long these programs will last depends on how severe or how long COVID-19 impact will be. However, financial institutions have committed to continue assessing the ongoing conditions and need for continuing relief. In California, the rent moratorium protection has been extended through September 30th, 2020. Some cities and counties have instituted total bans on rent increases. However, don't assume that you are automatically protected, and if you've been financially impacted by the pandemic, notify in writing your landlord that you can't pay rent or how much you are able to pay. Offer to negotiate or at least keep communications open. You may want to pay for a portion of the rent if you can, and save all financial documents and proof of correspondence. If your landlord is attempting to evict you for not paying rent, and you took all the above steps, contact an attorney or tenants' rights organization. I just want to say one thing. I got one document from HUD today that says that the moratorium, and this is a federal document, this is not California, but the rent moratorium and eviction may be extended or will be extended to December 31st, 2020. Okay, all righty, moving right along. Financial institutions are also waiving fees and charges for missed or late credit card and loan payments, and waiving penalties for early CD withdrawals for people who have been financially impacted by the pandemic. Also, later missed payments will not be shared with credit reporting agencies, which means the credit history and score will not be negatively impacted. In addition, many utility providers are not shutting off services due to non-payment. If you own your home and have a loan that is owned by the FHA, USDA, the VA, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, lenders or loan servicers cannot start or finalize a foreclosure, and this is through, currently it says August 31st, that will be being updated to December 31st, 2020. Homeowners can also request a forbearance for up to 180 days, with a 180-day extension available if needed. This is when your lender or mortgage servicers allows you to temporarily pause or reduce your payments. For Californians who have privately owned home mortgages, some of the largest banks offer mortgage forbearances and fee relief. If you want to request a forbearance, you can contact your loan servicer. If you decide to sign up for a forbearance plan, ask the servicer, how will you have to pay back the amount owed? Will you owe the entire amount in a lump sum when the period ends or at the end of your loan term, which is called a balloon payment? Will your payments be higher for a period of time? You want to get clarification on how you are expected to pay that back. And then keep in mind that forbearance does not erase what you owe, and that regular interest will continue accruing. You will have to repay any missed or reduced payments in the future. So if you are at all able to keep up with your payments, continue making them. And watch out for scams, emails, text messages, phone calls telling you that they can help you reduce or stop payments. Make sure you are working directly with your mortgage servicer. And your mortgage servicer is the person or the company that you make that payment to. The student loan payment release has been extended until December 31st, 2020. Under this program, borrowers who have federal student loans are automatically placed in forbearance, although they can still make payments if they choose. Also, interest is temporarily set at 0% on loans owned by the Educational Department. Talk to your loan servicer to learn if your loan qualifies. California borrowers who have privately owned student loans and are struggling to make payments due to COVID-19 pandemic also may be available for relief and should contact their financial institution to see what their options are available to them. They can also consolidate the loans not owned by the Department of Education into a federal direct consolidation loan, which would be eligible for the 0% interest rate as well. The availability and type of assistance benefits is an ever-evolving situation. To keep up to date with the latest news, visit usa.gov/coronavirus. And for benefits at the federal level, and covid19.ca.gov for benefits at the state level. Now, we're at the end of our presentation, but before we start the Q&A, I'd like to launch one last poll. We hope that you found this information enjoyable and informative, and your anonymous feedback is very important to us. If you can please take a moment to participate, we would greatly appreciate it. This poll has two separate questions. Question 1 asks, what was your level of understanding of this topic before attending this webinar? The answers are numbered 1 through 5, with 1 equaling that you had very little understanding and 5 equaling that you had good understanding. Question 2 asks, what is your level of understanding now after this webinar? The answers are numbered 1 through 5, with 1 meaning, 1 through 5, with 1 meaning that you learned very little and 5 meaning that you learned a lot. Okay, again, we're at the end of the presentation. I would like to remind you that if you cannot, I hate to do the survey, huh? That what might help. All right, here's the poll. And we'll give you a few seconds to answer, a few moments to answer that. Okay, we're about 30%. Okay. All righty. All right. Now we're at the end of the presentation. I'd like to remind you that if you cannot see or download the handouts in the chat box, this is our contact information. Please reach out and we'll be happy to email them to you. We also upload recorded versions of our live presentations on our website in case you would like to listen to this one again or any presentations that you may have missed. If you know anyone who might benefit from these presentations, please help us spread the word. If you would like to meet with a HUD certified housing counselor, you can find a list on the HUD website. And we have that HUD website right at the top of the screen there. It's www.hud.gov. And then Habitat for Humanity East Bay Silicon Valley is a HUD approved housing counseling agency. And you can contact us directly if you would like to meet with one of us. We have an office in Oakland as well as an office in Milpitas. My name is Romel George. I work at the office in Oakland, and my colleague who is also on the line with us is Alessandra, who works at the office in Milpitas, and there is our information there. Unfortunately, at this time, we are only offering phone and video appointments, but when we are able to offer in-person appointments, we will schedule them at our offices, so please connect with the counselor that is closer to you. I will now read and answer the questions in the chat box. If you cannot stay for the Q&A, thank you so much for attending today's webinar. We offer webinars on a variety of financial education topics, so please check our website regularly for upcoming presentations. Now I'm going to go to the chat box and answer the questions if we have any here. Okay. Let's see, handouts. No questions. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask? I don't see any in the chat box. So I am going to unmute you all and ask if you have any questions. If you do, feel free to ask. I am more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Anyone? Okay. I assume that we don't have any questions. No, I don't see any questions here at all. All righty. Well, all righty. Since I don't see any questions, I will adjourn this meeting and you can definitely have the rest of your afternoon back. Should any questions happen to come up, you can feel free to reach out and give me a call and ask those questions. You can send us an email to ask those questions, whatever works best for you. Again, if you are not able to see those handouts or unable to download those handouts, send us an email or give us a call and we will get them out to you. I'm going to take one more look to see if in the chat box to see any questions, and I still don't see any questions. So I am going to go ahead and end our meeting today. I want to say thank you all for attending and have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.